Hello, Open Skies Giba Church. I trust that you are well. This is the day the Lord has made. We're going to rejoice and be glad in it. Even though we're at home and we are on lockdown, but we can still rejoice and be glad. I have an honor and a privilege of introducing Pastor Tam Russell. She's going to bring the word today. Be blessed. Open Skies Giba, stand up and welcome Tam Russell.
Hi to all the lovely people of Open Skies Giba. Feels like we're on day 1058 of lockdown. I know it's not. I know it's only been 5 weeks, but it does feel like it's just been very long right now. And so I am with you today through the screens. I wish I could be there live because I love it when I get to come to Giba and be there in person and see you all. But through the screens it is today. From my home to yours, and I am really hoping to encourage you from the Word of God. We're going to go to Matthew 25 today, and the reason that we're going there is because this morning when I woke up, I opened up my Instagram and a post popped up from Jamie Oliver. Now, some of you may know who he is, some of you may not, but it doesn't really matter if you don't. For those of you that don't know who he is, just so you do know who I'm talking about, he's a British chef. Okay, and he's done quite well for himself. He's become a bit famous because he has a TV series. His whole goal is to try and teach England how to cook for themselves and be really healthy. And people love him. He has restaurants, he has recipe books, and he has over 8 million followers on Instagram. Okay, so that is a lot of people who are choosing to follow him and choosing to have what he has to say pop up into their life whenever they open Instagram. I actually realized that some of you might even not know what Instagram is, because in South Africa, everybody uses Facebook. I use Instagram because it's like Facebook, it's just a different platform. And in Australia, everyone uses Instagram. And so we lived there for many years, and I therefore use Instagram. But for those of you who don't know it or don't use it, same as Facebook. Anyway, Jamie Oliver, over 8 million followers, basically incredible influence. Okay, a lot of people who he can speak to at once, who he can share a thought with at once. And this morning he posted something that was on behalf of a friend, and I loved it because I just thought, what a cool way to use your influence, Jamie. It was a friend of his who's a farmer whose business is at risk just because of the times we're in. Everybody is in lockdown in England too. It's not just us here in South Africa. The restaurants are closed there, and this farmer supplies a lot of restaurants, and because of the times and people not being able to eat at restaurants, his business just may not survive. And so Jamie's post was about, why don't we order from this farmer, okay, and I will teach you how to cook a recipe with his ingredients, and you can all have an amazing meal at home. And he had already done it before for another farmer friend, a cheese farmer apparently, and everyone had jumped on board, and they've basically saved that farm and that farmer. No, it's not just the farmer that this is about. It's actually about all the employees on the farm who could potentially lose their jobs if the farm doesn't stay afloat. And that is not just the reality in England. That is the reality the world over right now. It's crazy times, but God is still on the throne. God is in control. Okay, so we don't have to worry. We don't have to fear. We do need to be praying. But let me take you to Matthew 25. It's a parable that Jesus tells to a bunch of people who've gathered around him. And that was the way of Jesus' life. Wherever he went, people just wanted to gather and hear what he had to say. He was a man with influence. Okay, we're going to be talking about influence today. So they gather around him, and he's wanting to teach them about the kingdom of God and about God himself, okay? And so often the way Jesus would teach is he would tell a story because he felt like it would bring it to life and people would be able to see a bit of a picture. And he was a great teacher. So in this story, he is talking about a wealthy man who goes away and leaves some of his wealth with his servants. We learn later that this wealthy man is actually Jesus. And who knows that God would be the wealthiest, as in he owns the whole universe. And so Jesus can definitely be the wealthy man, right? But in this parable, in this story, in this lesson that Jesus is trying to teach the people around him and the people who would read this story generations later, which is you and I today, he talks about how he leaves different amounts of his gold with different servants. The first servant he gives 5,000 bags of gold to, the second one 2,000, and the last one 1,000. And it says in verse 15 that, I'll read it to you, each he left with them these different amounts because he gave each according to his ability to manage. So it's actually so kind, because he was like, I know how you're wired, I know how you're made, here we go, you can manage that amount, you can manage this amount, you've all got something to do, but I'm not going to overburden anyone. I'm not going to ask anyone to do anything that is just like, oh my gosh, I can't do that, I don't know how to do that, you know, like that can so easily happen, right? People can just dump stuff on us and we don't even know how to handle what they've dumped, okay? He was not that kind of master. He was like, it's okay, you're going to be able to handle this, so I'm going to give you this, okay? And you're going to be able to handle this, so I'm going to give you that, all right? Amazing, amazing master. Trusting his servants, giving them what they can manage. He goes away. When he comes back, he finds out that the first servant, the guy who he gave these 5,000 coins to, has doubled his money. Okay, and so the first servant comes to him and he's like, here we go, here's your 10,000 coins. And the master's response is, oh my goodness, well done. That's incredible. Let me read it to you from the Bible. He says, you have done well and proven yourself to be my loyal and trustworthy servant. And because you have been a faithful steward to manage a small sum, we might be thinking, that's not such a small sum, 5,000 gold coins. But when we're talking about the God of the universe, anything is a small sum in comparison to that, okay? So you have done well managing a small sum. Now I will put you in charge of much, much more. Okay, you will experience the delight of your master, who will say to you, enter into the joy of your master. So basically, he's just proud of him. He's telling him how well he's done. He's saying to him, let me give you more. You've done so well. Here we go. Yeah, let me give you more. And also, come party with me. This is not just great. Thanks for the 10,000 coins. I'm going to go and have a party and celebrate myself. No, you come. You join in the party. He's just a cool master, actually. The second guy comes along and he has also doubled his money. He has made his 2,000 coins 4,000 coins. And the beautiful thing, and the thing that I kind of want to stop on today, because in this parable there are quite a few lessons and we don't have time to teach them all, but the one that I want to highlight is the fact that when the guy with the 4,000 coins comes and presents them to his master, the master is just as stoked, just as like, well done, you have done so well, I am proud of you, come and party with me, let me give you more. Okay, it was the same reply to both of them. You can sometimes think, oh, because this guy brought in 10,000 and this guy only brought in 4,000, that the master was going to be a bit more like, whoa, let me celebrate you because, you know, that's bigger than that. But it wasn't like that. He celebrated them both the same. And it's the same with us. Honestly, we are all given portions, different portions of either. You can relate it to your finances, but it's not just a parable about money. It can be that we're given different talents. It can be that we're given different spheres of influence. You can have a Jamie Oliver who has over 8 million followers, and then you can have someone over here who just has her family, okay, or his family, and maybe just a few friends, people in their workplace or whatever, that they feel like they've got influence over. But the reality is we all have influence. We're all given something. We're all given a portion, okay, in life to take away and do something with it. All right. So it can be a lesson on money, okay, and how we should go away and not be lazy, because I haven't mentioned the third guy, the third servant in the parable yet, the one who was given 1,000 coins. And the reality is that that guy doesn't really do anything with his 1,000 coins. He goes home and he just buries it. And then when the master comes back and they talk, the servant's thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do because I haven't done anything with the money that I was given. And he starts making up excuses. He starts trying to point the finger somewhere else. He starts saying to the master, oh, I was actually afraid of you, and I kind of know you to be a really harsh man, a harsh businessman. I know you to be someone who, is just so money hungry, and you'll even take money from places that weren't yours to take it. And you start hearing the stuff coming out of this third servant's mouth that you're like, man, that doesn't sound like the master that I've just been reading about. And the master's response is, he's actually quite angry. He's like, no, you're lazy. I can't trust you. So I'm actually going to have to take those 1,000 coins that I gave you, and I'm going to give it to this guy over here who made 10,000, because I know that he can handle it. And, there are lessons that you can take from that, okay, just to kind of show you how the story finishes there. But we're not going to focus on that third guy today. We're going to focus on the first two and the fact that they both had different portions given to them, okay, different amounts of talent, different amounts of money in this parable, different maybe spheres of influence, but they were both given something, and they did do something with what they were given, and they both received the same reward, if you like, in the same way that for all of us who love Jesus, we find ourselves in very different places in life. Christians the world over, there are some people who have big spheres of influence, big platforms that they speak on, or huge amounts of followers on their social media accounts. And then we find other Christians who they might just feel like, man, I feel like I might just have my family, Can I just say that God is not more impressed with the person who is speaking to thousands and thousands or millions. He's not more impressed by that person than he is with this person who's maybe just being faithful with their smaller sphere of influence, or, whatever it is that they have been given. And I'm focusing on influence today because of Jamie Oliver's post that popped up and how he used his influence for the sake of someone else, okay? But you could take this parable and, like I said, you could use it for talents, you could use it for our health that we're given, you can use it for money, but just to focus on influence today, okay? God is not more impressed with the people who reach more people, or the people who have more people who are listening. He's actually just looking at who are we, what have we been given, and what are we doing with it? And sometimes when I think about it, I think, like, how come why is it that some people are given more than others? Like, why? That doesn't seem fair. And I know that God is fair. That's who he is. He's just not the unfair type, okay? And so you're like, why? Why wouldn't you just give everybody huge amounts of influence, or everybody, the talent to be able to, I don't know, play football like Shabalala, or, I don't know, run a marathon in under 2 hours. Did you see that guy Iliad, I think his name is, a Kenyan athlete who ran a marathon in under 2 hours last year, which I don't know if you realize how fast that is, but the guy was sprinting for 42 kilometers. It's phenomenal, okay? We can all be given different talents. And so sometimes you can think, why God? Okay, we are all created differently. And because we also all receive differently. And so sometimes I just think, God, have you given us all different talents and different spheres of influence because you want to reach the whole world, and not everybody responds the same way. Not everybody knows Jamie Oliver. Some of you did, some of you didn't when I mentioned him. And so even though he's got 8 million followers, it's like, well, some people have never heard of him. Some people he's not going to be able to reach. Some people who maybe even have heard of him are thinking, I don't care what he has to say. I actually care more about what my teacher has to say, or what my mother has to say, or what my friends has to say, or what my neighbor has to say. We all respond differently, okay? And so therefore, God needs to give his servants different portions, different spheres of influence so that all people can be reached. And my thought for today is just what are you doing with your sphere of influence? You know, we all have one. We all have one. We all have people in our world who actually actively choose to hear what we have to say. And in this time of coronavirus where, you know, people are asking big questions, people are wondering what is going on in the world. Like, is there a God? What does God have to say about this? Is he good? Does he love me? You know, like people are asking big questions. And so my question to us, like as the church, is are we answering the questions at this time? Are we using our sphere of influence to be able to actually help others at this time? Does that make sense? I hope so. I know you can't answer me back, but I'm just asking anyway. I know that you can be thinking like, okay, cool sphere of influence. Yes, there are people actually that I know I have influence over. But right now we're in lockdown. Like I can't do anything. You know, some of us can go to work. Some of us are stuck in our homes. And so it's like, does everything just shut down? Like, does the church just shut down at this time? No, it actually doesn't. The church rises at this time. The darker the night, the brighter the light needs to be. Okay, and so you can think to yourself, okay, yes, cool, but how? Like, how at this time do I even rise? Like for myself, and now you're saying for other people, for people that I have like influence over. Well, you know, Paul, who wrote most of the New Testament, he was a pretty phenomenal guy, okay? Went around to new parts of the world, planted churches, and then found himself towards the end of his life in lockdown, the same as we are. 2 years of lockdown. I feel like we've only had 5 weeks, and I'm like, oh my gosh, imagine 2 years. He was in house arrest for 2 years, and in that time he could have thought to himself, I know that I've got a bit of a sphere of influence. I know that I've met people along my life's way, and he had planted some churches, and so, you know, there were communities of people that he had influence over and different friends and things. But he could have thought to himself when he was in lockdown, I don't really know what I can do right now because I'm stuck here and they're over there, and so I can't really influence anything. But he didn't actually treat his lockdown like that at all. He wrote letters to those churches, and he wrote letters to some of his friends. And actually 4 of those pieces of writing are included in the New Testament. They're 4 books of the Bible. They're Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, and Philemon. That's the one person that he wrote to, and the other 3 are churches that he wrote to. He thought to himself, man, I've got this sphere of influence. I have got people who, even though I'm in lockdown, I want to encourage them. I want to pastor them. I want to teach them. I want to be able to connect them with other people who can actually, you know, bring hope into their life. Or because actually, when we do that, it feeds our souls. So for Paul, who's in lockdown and can start feeling like, oh, the walls are closing in on him, the way for him to be able to live bigger and live healthier on the inside was actually to reach out to people that he loved and cared for. And just show them that he loved them and cared for them by writing them a letter. And the crazy thing is, when he wrote those letters, I don't think that he realized just how influential they were going to be, because he was just writing to one church or one person. But here we are 2,000 years ago, you know, as the church, and preachers are speaking words from those very books written in lockdown. Like 2,000 years later, Christians are reading those words like the world over and finding encouragement from them and hope from them and life from them. And I am so grateful that Paul didn't have an attitude of lockdown, what can I do? How can I rise? I'm just gonna, shrink back. He instead continued to reach out. And so, you guys, you have a sphere of influence. You do. I do. Mine looks different to yours, looks different to Jamie Oliver's, looks different to the person down the road. And that's okay. God actually designed it that way, and he needs it to be that way because there's a whole world to reach. And there are people that I can reach, and there are people that you can reach. And probably we can't reach the same people because people respond in different ways. And so my question is, with your sphere of influence, even in lockdown, just like Paul, even in lockdown, reached out to his sphere of influence, like, what are you doing? What are you doing at this time? Like, what can you do? Like, can you check on a neighbor? Can you connect some vulnerable people to some help if they need help? Can you help? Can you teach someone some truth in this time? Just the truth that you have. You don't have to try and teach them everything. Just your story. Can you share Jesus with people? Can you share hope with people? Can you pray? Like for our president, there's somebody with a huge sphere of influence, And sometimes even you wonder, like, oh, why does Cyril Ramaphosa have that huge sphere of influence right now? Why is he the president? Well, listen, God is incredible, and he knows who the right people are to be carrying responsibility at different times. And I'm so grateful for our president at this time and how he's leading, and he has my prayers. And we as the church, if we're thinking to ourselves, okay, what can we do? Like, how can we reach out? Maybe, you're not Paul, you haven't planted a church, but you can pray for our president. We can all pray for our president. We can pray for the health workers, the education system in our country right now that needs some creativity. Like, we all have full permission, I just want to say, to reach out to our sphere of influence. And it's a beautiful thought to know that as we do that, God is so proud of us, and that his response is going to be, well done, good and faithful servant, come and let's party. And the reward for this person who reaches out to thousands, millions, whatever, and this person who just reaches out to even one is the same. Okay, it is the same, because that's the kind of God that we serve. So guys, I hope that you're encouraged, and I hope that I get to see you soon. But in the meantime, I pray for God's blessing on you and full health and favor, and I pray that your soul is going to stay strong through all of this, and I pray for miracles where miracles are needed, in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.